Jerami Grant finally became a Portland Trailblazer, but is he everything he's chalked up to be? Welcome back to another player preview in a series where I preview Portland Trailblazers players, and let's talk Jerami Grant. Back in the offseason of 2020, Jerami Grant left the Denver Nuggets for the Detroit Pistons despite Detroit not offering a better contract. Denver was coming off a Western Conference Finals appearance, but Grant elected to play in Detroit. It was kind of weird at the time. We learned that he had a good relationship with the front office, and there was some other reasons why he elected to become a Detroit Piston. And that relationship with the front office benefited Portland in the end, as Damian Lillard, after recruiting Jerami Grant for months, including during their time on the Olympic team, finally convinced Grant to want to become a Portland Trailblazer. The Pistons and Grant had a handshake agreement that Detroit would trade him where he wanted to go, and he wanted to be a Portland Trailblazer. Portland ended up getting him for a 2025 Milwaukee first and some secondary second-round picks. Now Portland has maybe the most versatile two-way athletic forward that they've had in years, and it'll be interesting to see just how helpful that is next to Damian Lillard. In 47 games last season for the Pistons, Jerami Grant averaged 32 minutes per game, 19 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists, as well as a steal and a block, while shooting 43% from the field, including 46.5% from 2 and 36% from 3. Grant was a much more efficient player inside the arc before going to Detroit, where he was more of a role player. In Detroit, he was the offensive star. In the 2020 to 2021 season, Grant averaged a career-high 22 points, so there was a little bit of a scoring downtick. The efficiency was pretty much identical, but in his last season in OKC and his sole season in Denver, Grant was a guy that shot 55% inside the arc and around 39% from 3. Now he comes to Portland, where I think he will function more as an offensive cog than he did in Oklahoma City or Denver, but he's obviously not going to have the same role and the same usage rate that he had in Detroit. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to his efficiency numbers. I'll have goals for him later on. Now let's break down his offensive game. And actually, I'm going to start with his passing and ball handling and playmaking ability. He's not a great passer, but Jerami Grant's a guy that can do some things off the dribble, can attack closeouts, can drive the lane, and make the right dump off or kick out pass. And I think this will be vital for a Portland team that will probably try and move the ball more this season. But also, I want to see Jerami Grant play a little bit of a Draymond role on offense. He's not capable of throwing the same high-level passes that Draymond is. His passing ability isn't quite that good. But with Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons being two of the best shooters in the league, and then with Jusuf Nurkic, a good screen setter and rolling big man who can also pass, and then potentially Nasir Little in the starting lineup who's a freak athlete, Jerami Grant being able to bring the ball up and initiate some offense and make some passes and push on the break, and just him being a guy that's offensively skilled enough to do some of the things that Draymond does in order to set up Steph and Clay could be very interesting for the Blazers offense, and could be something that Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum never had in years past. But why I like Grant offensively in this Portland Trailblazers system is not only do I think he has that level of potential to be that playmaking forward, but also I think he can be a good fit off the ball. There's a quote on Media Day about Jerami Grant liking to cut, and then Jusuf Nurkic obviously likes to pass. Having a forward that can not only knock down threes to space the court, but also likes to cut and has the athleticism to finish around the rim should make him a seamless off-ball fit, and maybe a better off-ball fit at a forward position than the Blazers have had in years. Al-Farouq Aminu and Mo Harkless weren't the best three-point shooters. Robert Covington was very inconsistent in that regard, and he wasn't a guy who cut much, and then he had his troubles finishing the ball. Blazers fans that watched the 2021 playoffs know that. Jerami Grant doesn't have those issues. He's a good role player because he can do things with and without the ball. It'll just be interesting to see what his offensive role is and how much he has the ball in his hands compared to his previous stops, obviously in OKC, Denver, and then Detroit. I also think there's a chance that he could be staggered with the bench lineup a little bit. You could see Jerami Grant either having a longer stint that goes into the bench lineup, or you could see him having a shorter stint where he gets taken out of the game and then gets subbed back in with the bench lineup. I think it might be a situation where Portland tries to keep two of Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, and Jerami Grant on the floor at all times, so you have two high-level scorers, and then obviously playing with the bench lineup would allow Jerami Grant more of a chance to play that star offensive role that he did in Detroit. And also there's a chance that he plays some small ball 5. But in order to play small ball 5, Jerami Grant needs to rebound better. And I don't have a rebounding section for other players, but I do have one for Jerami Grant. In the past couple seasons, playing 32 to 34 minutes per game, Jerami Grant has averaged 4.6 and 4.1 rebounds per game. That is not good for a power forward, especially one as athletically capable as him. Now you could say he was playing in Detroit, so he wasn't going to rebound much, but it was the same story in Denver, as per 36 minutes, he averaged 4.7 boards. He was a little bit better in OKC, but you're talking about a power forward. Normally you want to see them getting 7, 8, 9 rebounds per game. Jerami Grant gets half that. Now there are some good rebounding wings, a Nasir Little, a Josh Hart on this team that can help make up for it, and Yusuf Nurkic is a really good rebounder, but Jerami Grant needs to rebound the ball better. I will have a goal for his rebounding soon. But first, let's talk about his defense. Now, I don't think Jerami Grant is quite as good defensively as a lot of people hype him up to be. He's definitely not bad. He's definitely a good defensive piece. But there's one thing I have an issue with that I've talked about multiple times. Now, off the ball, I think he's great. I think he makes the right rotations, makes them quickly, and he can block shots around the rim. I think Jerami Grant is truly a good team defender that will help the Blazers out just by being in the right position. Robert Covington was chalked up to be just that, but he was insanely out of position last season, and the Blazers got burnt on it many times. While Rocco got a lot of steals and blocks and made some defensive plays, he oftentimes sold out to make those plays, and at times would just stop guarding his guy off the ball just to try and go attack the ball handler in order to generate a turnover. The key for the Blazers defense this year will be to play aggressive but disciplined. Jerami Grant can be that type of defender, quick, lengthy, can play the passing lanes, can poke at the ball, can protect the rim. If Yusuf Nurkic is playing up at the point of a screen, Jerami Grant is a good enough secondary rim protector to be in the center of the back line of the defense. So I do like Jerami Grant as an off-ball defender. On the ball, he's a bit of a mixed bag. He certainly has the foot speed to stay in front of a lot of players. I don't think he can consistently guard some of the better guards in the league, like a Zach LaVine, Kyrie Irving, etc. But he's good enough to make things tough on those guys, and then he can defend forwards on the ball just fine. He can be that big, agile, quick forward defender that the Blazers haven't had in previous years. Robert Covington was never that. But the issue with Jerami Grant on the defensive end in regards to putting him up against guards especially, but just stars in general, is star players run a ton of pick and rolls. Jerami Grant really struggles getting through pick and rolls. There was a lot of people that hyped up his defense in the bubble, how Jerami Grant was a lockdown defensive player and looked amazing and this and that, and I went back and I watched 4 full bubble games to see it for myself after the Blazers traded for Jerami Grant. My biggest takeaway was he really struggles getting through on-ball screens. He dies at the screen, he takes a terrible angle. A lot of times he'll actually jump backwards and then try and run forwards over the screen. He just does weird stuff when he's screened on the ball. Blazer fans should end up seeing this. You should definitely look for this season, and I'll let you know if I think he's improved compared to what I saw in the bubble. But I legitimately watched a ton of tape on his defense to try and get a better feel for it so I knew what I was talking about, and he just really sucked getting through on ball screens. If you are going to be a lockdown defender against star players, you got to be able to get through on ball screens. Gary Payton II does that. That's why I view him as a lockdown defender. Jerami Grant does not. He can get better. It's not something that he physically is incapable of doing. There's nothing to suggest that he couldn't get through screens better, but you would think that he would have improved that by now. So I don't know if we should expect improvement there. Now let's look at his statistical goals. The first 3 are efficiency goals. That is to shoot 50% from 2, which is right in between where he was shooting before Detroit and in Detroit. I want to see him shoot 36.5% from 3, which is also between his previous stops say in Detroit, and then a 58% true shooting percentage. The past couple seasons, he was at 55.6%. In OKC and Denver, he was at 59%. So just getting that efficiency back up towards where it was when he was a little bit more of a role player, but also assuming that he has more offensive responsibility than he did before, I don't expect it to get quite all the way back up to that point. And then for per 36-minute goals, I want to see him average 19 points per 36. He was at 21.7 last year. In Denver, he was at 16.2. I want to see him get 6.5 boards per 36 minutes. Only one time has he done that in his career. He got 7 per 36 in 2018 for OKC, but I'm challenging Jerami Grant to rebound the ball better. This is not that high of a clip for a starting power forward with his length and athleticism. I really don't understand why he doesn't rebound the ball better, but we're going to find out if he continues to struggle. I want to see him get 2.5 assists per game. He was at 2.7 last year, 1.7 in Denver. And then I want to see him get 1.2 steals per 36, which would be a career high. He was at 1.1 last year. That wraps up this player preview for Jerami Grant. Let me know what you think of his goals down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of his defense. Let me know how you think he's going to fit in on the offensive side of the ball, and just give me your thoughts on the Blazers' biggest acquisition from this past offseason. The final 2 player previews are probably going to come after the preseason game tonight. Hopefully you guys still enjoy those, even though they're a little bit late, and then we'll get into some other types of daily content after that. I'll have standings predictions and all sorts of different type of unique videos. And as always, peace out. Go Blazers.